You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're in the mood for Italian in FAB Facts.
We're moving into the art world in the Randomiser.
And Chris Thompson gets technical about UFO.
Oh, I've heard of him. That's all coming up in Pod 222.
Of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
I need to do that.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
It's all gone a bit Bridgerton here.
It has, hasn't it, my lord?
Welcome to the Gerry Bridgerton Podcast. No, it's not. It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes.
His name over there is
Lord Richard of James.
Oh, I was going to say Sir Richard James of Woburn Green.
Okay,
which
fair
sounded
enough.
quite good. But can I be the Duke of Rumney? Is that all right?
Oh, yes, that suits you, yes.
That's very close to where I live, you see. So.
Oh, I see. No, that's pretty good, yeah.
I mean, I don't think Rumney's got any dukes or duchesses, but...
Well, it has now.
It has now, absolutely.
Exactly.
And
great.
over there...
Oh, yes, go on.
Sitting... No.
You know you want to.
Sitting very peacefully, waiting until his randomiser later on today is... I can't even think of anything.
The Duke of Dale, surely.
Really?
No? Not working for you?
No, not really.
Oh, randomiser?
Oh, how about the Count Chris Dale of Meta? How about that?
Oh, right.
Is that all right? I mean, I'm putting him on an alien planet.
You are a bit, yeah.
Anyway, basically, Chris Dale, the randomiser, is going to be here later for the randomiser, where he randomly chooses a random Gerry Anderson episode and stuff and says some things about it, and they're very funny and insightful. Yeah, he's nodding. Good. Oh, his wig fell off.
Whoops.
Also, coming up in this podcast are a few other items.
Right.
Would you present them as if you were greeting guests at an 18th century dinner dance party?
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce your delectation and delight, FAB Facts, followed by the Gerry Anderson Newsy News. Also, for your delight and delectation, I've already said that, haven't I?
It's fine.
I can't think of any other words. Is it fine? Just carry on. We've got an interview with Chris Thompson coming up. We've got the randomiser. We've got some news. We've got things from the pod. Even I'm all of a flutter now. Pods are on emails and Facebook and tweets and I mean it's gubbins that can all be summed up with one word.
Imagine
gubbins.
if this is somebody's first Gerry Anderson podcast and they're thinking, what on earth is going on? Now,
to be fair, why would you join it now?
Exactly. But if this is your first, let me reassure you, dear listener, now Podstron, that we have a lot of Anderson-y stuff that you'll likely enjoy coming up.
Yes.
I think we saved that. Oh dear. Well, anyway, we hope you're all having a better day than we are, apparently, Podstrons. And that you're also not requested to do a roll call in the style of an 18th century lords and ladies dinner dance.
Jamie, the thing is, if dear Simon Allen was still with us, you could bet what would be posted on our Facebook group first thing on Monday morning.
A proper one.
Us in our powdered wigs and our frock coats.
Absolutely, with the proper script where you don't just get stuck with delight and delectation, but we have wonderment and adulation and excitement and whatever.
Exactly.
Anyway, speaking of excitement, I feel like it might be time for a FAB Fact.
Oh, yes, that's why we're here. Go on, then.
Okay, then here we go into this week's FAB Fact.
Now, time for this week's FAB Facts.
For your delight and delectation, as Richard James would probably say, it's FAB Facts, where I've got a book of FAB Facts. I'll flick through it. Richard shouts FAB in the style of a ballroom announcer from the 18th century.
Please.
I stop flicking and then I read you the FAB Fact in my normal style, which is a sort of stumbling from word to word style.
That's it.
So, are you ready for a fab and a stumble?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Fab! How was that?
Yeah, you're sacked from that particular welcoming job. The giggle at the end, I think, did it.
You like that, yeah.
Now, oh dear. Oh, well, we're still in the 70s, as we were last week, really.
Yeah,
But
cusp of.
if you remember, quite a few pods ago, we talked about the UFO compilation movies. Do you remember those? They were used to launch the series in Italy.
That's right, I do remember.
Yep. We spoke about how the success of those films also led to Italian cinema compilations for both The Protectors and for Space 1999, if you remember. Mm-hmm. In fact, the 1999 compilation, Spazio 1999, I should say the 1999 in Italian, but I don't know how to say that, was recently released on Blu-ray in the UK as part of Network's Super Space Theatre collection.
Nice.
Well, today we are going back to Italy to look at the involvement of the country's state broadcaster, RAI, or RAI, depending on how you want to say it, with the production of the first... RAI?
I think so.
Not RAI, RAI, you think?
I think it's RAI, like Rai Uno.
Oh, right.
I think that's how they say it, having been to Italy a couple of times.
Oh, you're the expert. I've only been once and I didn't watch any telly. So, RAI. And, well, their involvement in the production of the first series of Space 1999.
Uh-huh.
Because as it says in the end credits, the show was a co-production between Group 3 Productions, the three being Dad, Sylvia and Reg Hill, and RAI/RAI, which meant that a substantial chunk of the show's budget came from Italy. More on that later. But that money meant that the Italian investors did hold some creative control over the show itself, as happens when there's a co-funding model, as they did with several other co-productions with ITC, from the early 1970s, including the miniseries Jesus of Nazareth and Moses the Lawgiver.
Okay.
So, if you've seen the UFO to Space 1999 video on our YouTube channel by the Marvellous Chris Thompson, then you will know that two of the show's main characters, Sandra and Alan, were meant to be Italian characters played by Italian actors. Now, obviously that fell through for various reasons, and thankfully we got the much-loved Xenia Merton and Nick Tate instead. Not casting aspersions on the abilities of those Italian actors. They might have been amazing, but Xenia and Nick, brilliant.
Yeah.
However, the Italians still wanted some kind of representation on the show, understandably. Makes sense, they put the money in. Now, in some series, when you have money invested from other countries in the production, you might go and film episodes in those countries.
Yeah.
For instance, a later ITC action series, Return of the Saint, which was also co-financed by our Italian friends, filmed plenty of episodes in Italy because the show's format easily allowed that.
Okay,
now,
yes.
Obviously, being stuck on the moon meant that Space 1999 wasn't really able to go and shoot in Italy, and that's why in 4 of the final 6 episodes of the first season, you have Italian actors parachuted in to play guest Alphans instead. These were... Oh dear, I'm going to have to say Italian actor names, aren't I?
Great.
Giancarlo Prete in The Troubled Spirit, Carla Romanelli in Space Brain, Gianni Garco, or it must be, or is it Jarco, do you think? Probably is Garco. Gianni Garco.
Yeah.
My dogs are very excited here. In Dragon's Domain. And also Maria Guerini. Guerini in The Testament of Arcadia. Now, I apologise to anyone who actually speaks Italian or is Italian for what just happened there. I even tried to use the dogs to cover it up, but it didn't work. The job of selecting those actors was Sylvia's, and she made some good choices from a rather limited pool of Italian actors who were A, able to speak English, and B, famous enough to Italian audiences to make them worth hiring. So that is probably quite a small Venn crossover.
Yes, that's right.
Overall, though, these actors did pretty good work, particularly Giancarlo in Troubled Spirit and Gianni Garco in Dragon's Domain, both of which are episodes that rely heavily on their performances, so good job, both of them.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible when you consider that some of them were probably facing a bit of a language barrier, particularly also Maria Guerini, who seems to have been almost completely redubbed in Arcadia by legendary voiceover artist Robert Rietti.
Ah, wow. Okay.
So many names in here for me to get wrong. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Now, going into the second season, the RAI logo does not appear on the end credits, as they weren't involved in the show anymore. We're not aware of RAI being unhappy with the first season, as the show was quite a big hit in Italy when it was first shown, so there could be several reasons for them not returning. Maybe there wasn't time to get a deal sorted out, maybe they didn't like dealing with ITC, who knows, but...
Yeah.
One of the criticisms that's often made against the second season is that it looks a bit cheaper compared to the first. Well, that might be because of just how much money that Rye put into the first season but didn't put into the second. We don't have the exact details, but it's rumoured to have been about a third of the show's budget, which probably makes sense for a co-pro.
Yes, sure. Gosh.
There you go. So the Italian influence, very strong.
What were those names again, Jamie? Just run them by me one more time, if you would.
No? I don't think I'm able to say any more poorly attempted Italian names. It's not fair on anyone, particularly me, but most particularly any Italians.
The Italians, sorry. Yes, exactly. Now, is it right that any producer who puts in a sizable chunk of money to get the show made should have creative input into what appears on the screen in terms of casting, scripting, and so on?
I'm not sure they necessarily should have. It's often the case that they do.
They sort of buy the rights, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but one often, you know, if a show is so good that you want to put money in it because you see the potential, then why would you then want to say, yeah, but could you just change it? I mean, you wouldn't. It's a bad example for several reasons, but you wouldn't want to buy Van Gogh's Sunflowers and then say, now that I've got it, can we just change that bit there? And actually, I don't really like sunflowers. Can they not be daisies instead? Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you like the concept of it or what you've got so far, then you should nurture it maybe, but not put control of it. But equally, if you're an international broadcaster who's putting money in, then the home broadcast audience will want to see familiar faces. Your bosses will say, well, where's our stamp on this? So it's all very political. But I don't think it appears to have been to the detriment of Space 1999.
No.
Probably only to its benefit with that budget.
True enough. Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, interesting.
There you go. So, if any Italian fans listening would like to correct my pronunciations, please send them to podcast@gerryanderson.com and I will read them, but not out loud because it'll be too long.
Exactly, yeah. Good thinking.
So there you go. I guess that's the end of that one, is it? Has it brought us to the end of this week's... yes, it has.
Rye Fact! Wow! Nice! I quite like that because it could also be W-R-Y, couldn't it? It could have been a very wry fact.
Ooh, yes.
You see? Or
it could be a R-Y-E fact.
R-Y-E, a rye fact, right, yes, okay, like rye bread.
Exactly.
Yes, could have been that. Wow. Good. Now, for more sense, let's turn to our listeners, shall we?
Please,
our lovely
we need some.
podsterons, yes, who've been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com. Of course they have. For example, Jackson got in touch to say, hi, Jamie and Richard. I'm emailing the podcast because I have some thoughts on which sci-fi show I would like to see as a super marination show. This is rumbling on, Jamie, from a previous Fab Fact, where I think we took a look at a scene from Stargate where they had replaced the cast with marionettes as an homage to Super Marination. Well, Jackson says, personally, I would love to see the original Star Trek as a Super Marination show. The show was, and still is, frequently ridiculed for its basic set designs and cheap props and special effects. This was mostly due to a lack of budget. However, by the time Star Trek was released in 1966, Anderson Productions received generous budgets for their shows, and the Super Marination team had grown into a highly developed and skilled group of people with lots of experience that undoubtedly could have created more impressive sets and props than the ones we got to see in the actual show. Don't get me wrong, says Jackson, I love the original Star Trek. It is in fact my favourite from the Star Trek franchise, and in my opinion, the low-budget quality adds to its charm and uniqueness. That being said, I can't help but wonder how amazing it would have looked had the show been created with a bigger budget. On a completely different note, says Jackson, I also wanted to share that I've recently made a Thunderbirds cosplay. Ever since I started watching Thunderbirds about 4.5 years ago, I wanted to have Alan's International Rescue uniform, as he's my favourite character. I know, unpopular opinion, and now I finally have one. I cannot wait to wear my uniform to Comic-Con in November. Hopefully, someone will recognise me, and if not, I'll make sure everyone knows who I am at the end of the day. All the best from Jackson. Well, thanks for getting in touch, Jackson. Do look out for him in his Alan International Rescue uniform. That sounds rather nice.
Yeah, nice. Well, we hope to see pictures on social media.
Exactly. Peter Adams from North West Lancashire got in touch to say hello to all the staff at the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Long-time listener, first-time emailer here from the Northwest.
Welcome.
On your recent Fab Facts, you requested suggestions for TV shows that should have a Super Marination sequence and/or episode, and I had several suggestions. First and foremost would be the recent hit series, The Sandman. That's a Neil Gaiman series, I think. that's recently come to one of our streamers. I don't know, Amazon or Netflix. Right, there we are. As I feel, out of any current TV show, it would be the least surprising thing to see Dream and Matthew gadding about chatting with the other puppet Endless. Another show I think would benefit from a sudden turn to marionettes would be Peacemaker, which would fall in line with a very Team America kind of mood. Keep up the great work for Peter Adams. Yeah, good. On a similar theme, Dodge Morgan says, "Righto, boyos." Yes.
Does he say it like that? How's he spell that?
Does, yeah. Righto.
Okay.
Righto. Boyo.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if there was any further indication of the accent there, but...
well, a little later on, he does say Yaki Da, so, I think I'm in the right...
Very accurate then. You're very good at this, aren't you?
On Pod... I didn't quite go that far. On Pod 220, the fabulous FAB Facts threw up the interesting question of what contemporary series you would like to see in Super Marination. Well, apart from the obvious answer, everything, I think that, although not contemporary, the lost episode of Doctor Who would be an excellent candidate for being super marinated. I know that some of the Lost Doctor episodes have been animated with somewhat limited success, but I think in Super Marination they would look superb. Being very much of a similar time period to Gerry Anderson's shows, it would be a perfect match. Oh, that's Dodge Morgan. Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? And finally, here's someone we know well, Mark Simpson Wedge, who says, "Hello, gentlemen. Hope all three of you are well. In response to the last Fab Fact, in Pod 220, there's a puppets sci-fi film that was made in 2008. It was called Agent Crush, starring Ian Griffith, Brian Cox, Neve Campbell, Brian Blessed and Roger Moore. Unfortunately, the movie never got released onto the big screen. Reason? Unknown. But luckily the movie is available to rent or buy on Amazon Prime, and I recommend it. It's better than Team America, and it's dedicated to Derek Meddings." Oh, interesting. He says, go on, do you know that?
Yes, I know about Agent Crush, yes. It's an interesting piece.
Right. Fair enough. Worth looking out then. He continues, "There's another thing I want to mention. I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook a while ago, but I mentioned that whenever there's a big British event, or like the Queen's Jubilee Parade or the 2012 Olympic ceremonies, TV shows or films that were made in Britain are involved, like Doctor Who, Mr. Bean, James Bond, Harry Potter, etc. But do they involve anything to do with Gerry Anderson? No, they don't," says Mark Simpson Wedge. "It's disgraceful, unfair, and so wrong. Or, in this case, and a wrong."
Nice spot with an and wrong there.
He
Mark,
continues, yes. He says, "Hopefully the next time there's a big British event, Anderson shows will be involved. But what would you like to see?" He says, "Sorry, Jamie, but it's time for another Quickfire 5. Here we are. This has been sprung on you, Jamie. This is a Quickfire 5 sent in from Mark Simpson Wedge.
Thanks, Mark.
Are you ready for these?
Yes.
Right. Apart from Fab 1, which other ground vehicle would you like to see in the parade? SPV or Gabriel?
Oh, SPV.
No, really, I'd like to see Gabriel.
I've seen Gabriel before. I've never seen a real SPV.
Fair enough. Apart from Fab 1, which other ground vehicle would you like to see in the parade? SPV. Oh, I've just read that one. I mean, should we cut that out or should I just carry on?
Just carry on.
Just carry on. Which craft do you want to see giving an air display? Angel Interceptors or Eagle Transporters? Yeah.
Eagles would look more impressive, I think, because the Angels would look more like normal planes. So, yeah, Eagles.
Yes. Okay. Which Anderson submarine would you like to see travelling along the River Thames? Stingray or Skydiver?
It's so tricky, but I reckon we lose Skydiver with colour in the Thames, so I'm going to say Stingray.
Oh. Wow, okay. And finally, who should provide the singing entertainment? Cliff Richard Jr. or Kate Kestrel?
Oh, Kate. Poor Poppy. Sorry, Cliff.
Very good. And finally, which Martian villain should try and sabotage the event? The Mysterons or Zelda?
Oh, well, we've already got a Scarlet thing with the SPV, so let's say Zelda.
It had to be, did it? There you go. That's a
Thanks,
quick
Mark.
five from Mark, who says, "Have a good day." Well, have a good day yourself, Mark. Thanks for those. All for now, but do send in, even your own Quickfire 5, so Jamie, why not? Just attach them to your email and send them in to podcast@gerryanderson.com, along with all your comments and reviews and ideas and thoughts, and I'll read them out next time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Not really going to have to.
Well, all
only
right,
a week, mind.
I'll wait
Yeah.
then. So do you want me to do a guest thing then?
What? Is there a guest?
Of course there's a guest.
Oh, well, that's nice, isn't it?
So,
yeah, go on then.
Hang on though.
Yeah.
It's not time for the guest, it's time for news.
Oh, I thought you were shuffling things up a bit.
No!
Keeping me on my toes.
I'm losing it today. How about instead we do some Gerry Anderson news?
Hang on. Yeah, could you just wait outside a minute? Be with you in a minute. Sorry, just telling the guest. Yeah, we're doing the news first. There we go. All right. I'm sure they won't mind.
Brilliant, everything's going so well. Right, let's have this week's Gerry Anderson news.
It's chaos.
Yes, it's obviously the very well organised and
Isn't it?
timely Gerry Anderson news.
News.
Yes, and there's lots of it as usual. Here we go with this. So let's start with the stuff that I basically leaked last week because I, just got things a bit wrong with the dates. I'm very excited about this upcoming UFO S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual, courtesy of our lovely guest today on the podcast, Chris Thompson. I can't believe Chris has never been on before. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. The UFO S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual is out next month, but will be available to pre-order later this month. More on that very soon. A date for your diary if you're interested. Chris and I will be doing a live video on the 19th of September at 6:30 p.m. to reveal some of the content, show you some spreads, talk about the process.
Oh, yes.
But basically, this is an in-universe guide as if you had just joined S.H.A.D.O as an operative. It's a beautiful book. The Space 1999 book was special. I'm going to say that Chris has one-upped himself here. It's really, really lovely. The book is made to look a bit more like an 80s thing, so different colour palettes, slightly different styling, but the renderings and stuff that he's done, goodness me, it's just absolutely beautiful. So more on that very, very soon, but I, for one, am extremely excited. Ooh. Now, today, the day of release is the 12th of September, which means that tomorrow, of course, is the 13th, and it's Breakaway Day.
Great.
Great day for Space 1999 fans. You may have seen the release of our Breakaway Day 2022 t-shirt, limited edition, and a couple of new Space 1999 designs. However, there is a live stream on the 13th at 6:30 p.m. UK time, that's British Summer Time, with me, Robert Wood, and David Hirsch, and we will have a lovely announcement going on then. So you'll definitely want to join us. You can join us at YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and everywhere, basically. But basically, youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV. We've posted links across the web to all the places where you can join us. But that'll be fun, and we've got some great stuff to share with you there.
Oh, that's good.
This Saturday, we've got a motion comic teaser of Brains is Dead, Thunderbird's Brains is Dead, so combining our fantastic upcoming Thunderbirds audios with the comic art from TV21, so stand by for that. You may have missed also last weekend Captain Ochre's best moments from New Captain Scarlet, courtesy of AC, part of his ongoing series allowing you to revisit some of the greatest stuff from New Captain Scarlet.
Oh, I saw that, yes, it looks brilliant.
This Saturday coming, which is the 17th? Yes, it must be the 17th. Andrew Harmon, the designer of Thunderbird's Danger Zone, is at Tabletop Gaming Live up in Manchester, I believe. I probably got that wrong now, but let's say it's Manchester. Just double check before you head to the incorrect city. And he's going to be there playing Thunderbird's Danger Zone. He's going to have some copies available, so you can go and learn from the man who designed it. Say hello to him, get a copy yourself there, and just go and play all sorts of other tabletop games. Now, I mentioned Thunderbirds vs. the Hood, our new audio drama, which is two different stories, two mini albums, if you will, The Vanishing Ray and Brains is Dead. Well, Thunderbirds vs. the Hood plus our audio annual Anything Can Happen are going to be released on Thunderbirds Day, the 30th of September. So they will be shipping on or around that date. If you've pre-ordered, we'll try to get them to you ahead of time so you can enjoy them on Thunderbirds Day. And on that note, and finally for now, on this Thunderbirds Day, the return of FAB Live.
Oh.
Hooray! Yes, it's FAB Live, the Thunderbirds Day edition. That'll be coming live from the Moxie Hotel in Slough, the Thunderbirds Hotel, 6:30 p.m. on the 30th of September. If you are in the area and would like to come and join us as part of a small live audience, you'll be more than welcome. We'd love to see you there. We might even have some goodies for you too. But no need to come along. You can enjoy it from anywhere in the world. 6:30 p.m. UK time. Thunderbirds Day, 30th of September for FAB Live, the Thunderbirds Day edition. Oh, that's quite a bumper crop, isn't it? But that's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
Brilliant. Always nice to have some news, isn't it? Especially when
Always
I remember
nice.
that we actually are supposed to have some news.
Yeah, always nice to have a bit of news in the right place in the podcast. But I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? But it's what people have come to expect. I think they set their watch by us.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I doubt it very much.
Come on. It's 20 minutes in, so it must be time for the news. That's what they're thinking.
Okay, well, let's see if we get some complaints. Do please send in your schedule and timing complaints to podcast@gerryanderson.com.
Or you can post them on our Facebook group, where our lovely Podstrons have also been adding their comments and pictures and so on. For example, Miles Parrish posted about, he's been listening to the third collection of Terrorhawks stories from Anderson Entertainment, The Big Finish, saying, So the Terrorhawks audio series has now twice brought me to tears. Absolutely stellar stuff from all involved. Cannot recommend highly enough. There. So he's got the bug, I think.
Yeah, well, quite right too.
Yes, April Penfold says, forgive me if people already know this, but I'm watching Light and Magic documentary on Disney+, and I'm delighted to find out that the reason why the Millennium Falcon is the shape it is because the first shape of it was too much like the shape for the Eagles in Space 1999, and George Lucas didn't want anything that looked like anything out there already. I think we covered that in a previous Fab Fact.
I think we have, or certainly in discussion in a couple. But there's so many podcasts now, it's easy to forget what the hell's going on.
That's true. Well, as we've demonstrated earlier. Andrew Clements, who we know and love, commented on that saying, well, actually, Lucas decided to follow Gerry's example in the end, designing his CGI Clone Wars characters to be deliberately reminiscent of Thunderbird's puppets.
He did. I think we've covered that as well.
Right, there you go. Roger M. Smith, who last week treated us to a picture of his, I think it was some sort of cheesy bakes, I think, that rather lovely. He says, think I know why Fab 1 is on display at the Black Country Museum. They're in the process of adding 2 new streets to the museum, one in the 50s and one in the 60s. My guess is Fab 1 is part of the 60s display, as it's a Lincoln. So I think I'll have a chat, because I have quite a collection of 60s toys. FAB.
Lovely.
That sounds good, doesn't it, up at the Black Country Museum? Might be worth a look. Danny Hewson says, hi, all you Podstrons. I hope you're all okay. Some of you may have read my earlier post that says I'm a #1 Thunderbirds fan, closely followed by Captain Scarlet. So this is an observation, not a criticism.
Uh-oh.
I just watched the Thunderbird 1 launch segment and never really thought about this before, but should Scott be lying horizontal, or at least an incline? The Sun Probe crew all seem to be lying back, and on every NASA space launch, the crews are always lying down. The stress on Scott's body would cause him to black out, I would imagine. Thunderbird 1 does get going once it's off its launch pad. I do love that scene, so here is my question to you all. Can anyone come up with a reasonable explanation as to why Scott manages to survive this upright sitting position on takeoff, and why the cockpit launch position is designed that way? Also, can you come up with any other incidents in the Anderson universe where this happens? All the best to you all, from Danny Hewson.
Well, that is very specific, Danny. I don't think I've ever heard that criticism levelled at Thunderbird 1, but I think you're right. But maybe there's a muscle stimulating system built into the chair, which causes Scott's legs and buttocks to contract, squeezing the blood up to his head, stopping him from passing out, maybe? I mean, does that work?
Right. Clutching at straws, I think. I prefer Emily Woodthorpe's explanation, who says, I think it's just something we're not supposed to think about too much, like how Thunderbird 2 can fly. Yeah,
I mean, that is the other thing with all these. It's, don't think about it too much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And finally, over on Facebook, Paul Hyder says, so Thunderbird 1 has 1 main engine, Thunderbird 2 has 2 main engines, Thunderbird 3 has 3.
Yeah.
So why did the designers not follow through with Thunderbird 4?
Oh, well, I'm not sure that was the basis of it. And does Thunderbird 1 have has one main engine, but it's got like 9 or more, hasn't it? Total little engine. Yeah. So and also if 2's doing its vertical takeoff and landing, then it's got 4.
Sure.
So I think we can very quickly start to undo this nonsense.
Fair enough. Well, there we go. If you want to join in the conversation, just head on over to facebook.com/groups/Podstrons, answer a few questions. We'll let you in, and you can join in on all the fun.
Fan-blooming-tastic. And it's so nice there, so do it.
Yeah, isn't it?
Now,
absolutely.
I think it is time for an interview now, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Is it that time now, is it?
Yes, it is that
time.
Okay, because I tried to do it earlier, and that was the wrong time, but now's the right time.
You don't want to put the randomiser in first?
Stop it.
No?
Stop it. No,
All right.
it's interview time. Now, lots of you will know Chris Thompson. He's a designer, writer, comic person, animator, does everything. And he's also the writer and illustrator of the upcoming S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual, our lovely UFO piece. And it's something to behold, and you may have seen some previews by this point, but I thought I'd have a quick chat with Chris to see how he does it, because I know how long he's been working on this and how hard he works, but how does he work out the layout of various buildings and stuff which aren't shown in context in the UFO? How does he work out anything, really, for these incredibly detailed illustrations that he puts together? And what's the process of writing a book like this? So I had a quick chat with Chris, and so here's that quick chat.
Great.
Over to Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris Thompson, and I am the author of UFO, what's the title of this book again? The S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual. Sorry, it's been a long day.
I'm so glad that you knew that, Chris. Now, you say I'm the author of this book. You are also so multi-talented, it actually kind of annoys me a little bit. And also you have a ridiculously luscious head of hair, which is also very unfair. Yeah, thank you. You just shook it as a sort of shampoo advert style. So what other stuff might the Postrons know you for, Chris? There's so much.
Let's go back. So they might know me for the cover of the Space Police script book from 2013.
You went super niche there straight away. Okay.
That was the first thing I did for you ever. But yeah, they know me from Robert the Robot, the animated short on the FAB Italia 5 Blu-ray. They might know me from New Captain Scarlet, Operation Saber. They might know me from just wandering around aimlessly at conventions. Generally just all-around 3D artist, animator, man that makes occasional fan films back in the day.
Okay, well, I'm going to add on the Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual, writer and illustrator. Obviously, that's quite a major thing. The vast majority of our T-shirt and hoodie designs, tons of other covers and artwork. I mean, it's an endless list. You're incredibly prolific, so I'm sure there'll be lots of podcasts going, oh yeah, Chris's stuff, brilliant. Well, now he's finally here. I can't believe it's been this long that we get 222 pods in before we actually have you on. So sorry about that. But we're not actually here to talk about all your other stuff. This is solely about UFO. So for the uninitiated, Chris, what is the UFO S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual exactly?
Or Shadow Tom, as we've been calling it.
You can call it Shadow Tom if you like.
Shadow Tom. So the S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual is essentially a guide to what S.H.A.D.O is. It breaks down the history of the organization. It breaks down S.H.A.D.O HQ, Moonbase, the 4 branches of forces that S.H.A.D.O has: the Navy, the Space Force, the Ground Force, and the S.H.A.D.O, their public-facing air network. It covers personnel, equipment, and everything we know about the aliens, which is not a lot, but that's half the fun of the show. And I think it's also important to mention that it's not just me. I have my co-writer, Andrew Clements, working with me. I have artists Graham Bleefman and Christina Logan doing additional illustrations on it. And then there's Steve, our lovely editor, and the wonderful guys at Amazing 15.
That's very good of you to acknowledge, everyone, because it is an enormous team effort, because it's a huge undertaking. However, you are the person doing the bulk of the writing and all really of the certainly of the CG illustration stuff, and there is a huge amount.
I last count, I think it's about 180 illustrations.
Okay, there you go.
180 illustrations by me.
Yeah, that is absolutely bonkers, and another sign of your crazy prolific nature. So you did Moonbase Alpha. A lot of Postrons will probably have a copy of that. Off the back of that, what is the process of putting a book like this together?
It's either like running a marathon or climbing Kilimanjaro. There's this element of, at the start of it, you make an asset list or you make a page list, and it's this huge blank document of everything you've got to do. And you're just sitting there trying to put this thing together, being like, okay, right, we've got obviously S.H.A.D, Skydiver, S.H.A.D.O Interceptors, Moonbase. What rooms do you want to see? Well, we want to see I don't know, S.H.A.D.O HQ and Straker's office and Straker's other office and all these bits. And you just make this huge list, and then you just slowly start ticking these things off one by one. And eventually, like, there's that bit in the middle where you're like, is this ever going to end? And the bit where we're at now, where we're pretty much just finished, being like, oh, actually, like I'm, at the minute, I'm going back through illustrations and fixing things up just while sort of the book's getting checked. And it's like, okay, actually, like, when you get to the top of Kilimanjaro and you look down and you're like, oh, okay, like, we did that.
Yeah.
Like, the second book, put it on the first one.
Yeah. I mean, it is an amazing thing to see, because I along the way I'm seeing bits of text and the odd illustration crop up, but you do really just get on with it. There's not a lot of checking in or additional motivation required. So then when it appears in PDF form, say, right, here it is, it looks absolutely amazing. So, well done for eating that elephant one mouthful at a time.
I'm sure the book is delicious.
It absolutely is. So you do your asset list and all that kind of stuff. How much of it is actually sort of revisiting UFO? I mean, as in how much of it is rewatching episodes, rewatching the series?
Oh, yeah. So, funny enough, Space 1999 was a show I knew very well, or at least year one. I'd been told not to watch year two by a lot of people, and then I actually quite enjoyed it when I got around to it. But UFO was... I have a slightly different relationship with UFO because I never saw it as growing up, and it was probably when I was about 17, 18. I remember I saw UFO and Terrorhawks back to back because that was sort of when the DVD revolution came out.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, I appreciated UFO. I got the 2 DVD set, and I got the second DVD set first because why not start halfway through? So I was more familiar with like the Pinewood episodes, which are a little bit more spacey and out there. And it took me a while to get into it. It's only really as an adult I kind of was like, actually, no, I appreciate what this thing's trying to do now. It's not another run and gun space show. This is actually very a human story about the people that work in this organization and the very extreme nature of what S.H.A.D.O is. Because, like, it's an undertaking that makes faking the moon landings seem completely insignificant. Once you have to, like, try and explain how S.H.A.D.O operates, like, there's no way they could keep that secret. There's thousands of people that work for this organization. They've got, like, regular trips to the moon back and forth, and like a steady stream of like nuclear missiles getting shipped to moon base and things. And it's obviously the series quite wisely focuses on like how difficult it is to keep the secret, how difficult it is for people to like have relationships under the strain of impending alien attack and secrecy, and having this very strict system in place. And it meant that, like, having watched the series and got into the series much later on, I could sort of appreciate it a bit more. And in fact, like, I was in hospital for a bit last year, and I remember, like, whenever we'd sort of like, right, this is the manual we're going to do. So I, like, my first run of binge watching the series was in my hospital bed. I'd just been like, okay, here we go. Like, right, here we S.H.A.D.O, secret headquarters, alien defense organization, secret location beneath film studio, start typing.
Nice. Dr. Jackson, etc., attending, hopefully not to you. It's interesting you talk about it as a more of a kind of human drama, because I think if you ask a lot of people what is UFO, they'd be like, oh, it's about aliens invading, and there's like, secret organization repelling them, and they're trying to steal our organs and stuff. That's the focus. But your view of it is slightly different to that.
It is. Interestingly, what is UFO is a question I've had to answer quite a lot lately, because like, you meet people in the world, you go on dates and stuff, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm writing a book. And it's like, so what's a book about? And it's about this TV show called UFO. And they're like, what's UFO? And it's like, okay, well, style, like, in terms of content, it's kind of like the X-Files meets For All Mankind. And in terms of style, it's like Austin Powers. And somehow it works.
Wow, that I've never heard that particular combination before, but I can see where you're coming from there.
Like, it's a TV show about, like, it's in many ways it's a product of its time, but like, if you ever remade UFO, you have to make it funky. Yeah, there's no way that you could just take all that out and have it still be the same show.
Yeah, there is a big aspect of the style, visually, the music, and all that kind of stuff that makes it what it is.
Well, like, my friend Christian Tarp is this very interesting way of talking about UFO, and he sort of it's almost like a magazine show. Like, everyone's hot, everything, like, everyone has like wonderful luscious cars and furniture, and everything is so designed down to a T. It's almost like aspirational in a way, except for the aliens trying to kill us and steal our organs.
Except for all the dark stuff, and the failed marriages and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
they guest star dying at the end of every episode.
Yeah. But other than that, you're right. It's all a very optimistic view of the future. It's a very 60s, a very late 60s view of an aspirational future, isn't it? So makes total sense.
I'm sure 1980 was exactly like that.
As far as I'm aware, it was. So they say. So when you're revisiting then UFO, not from the human point of view, but from the technical point of view, because that's what this is all about the hardware really and the locations. When it was made, it was not made with a view that people were going to pick through it with a fine-tooth comb. And so you will inevitably, I guess, come across things that make no sense at all. Interiors that don't fit exteriors, locations around Harlington Straker or inside S.H.A.D.O HQ, for example, that don't seem to connect up. So how on earth do you deal with that without spoiling what it is?
Funnily enough, I disagree.
Oh, good.
For some reason, particularly this happened with the first sort of part of UFO, and then it flies off the rails whenever they were told to make it more exciting.
Yeah.
But initially, UFO was actually extremely succinct. It was a shame we were never actually able to find the series Bible for this one, because we had it for Moonbase, but we did thanks to David Hirsch. But this one we didn't have it for UFO.
Yeah.
But S.H.A.D.O is at least initially designed extremely like clockwork. Like the interceptors only having one missile there's actually a very good reason for that, and it's to do with like mass ratios in space and sort of also scarcity. Like there's only so many nukes that you can have, and not only having one shot anyway. Like S.H.A.D.O HQ itself, you don't really see enough of it, but like they hold to whenever like you see the very first shot inside S.H.A.D.O HQ when it's got like the layout and everything, they kind of hold to that as well. And you see like a map of it in Mindbender, and again it's familiar. You can kind of recognize where all the corridors and stuff would be theoretically. It's only really in those Pinewood episodes when suddenly the interceptors are having dogfights with the UFOs, or like you've got characters turning up that weren't there before, or just stuff like that. Whenever like it gets a lot more action adventure, when it sort of starts to kind of get a bit mixed up.
Okay.
And there is some explanations to like kind of work around stuff for that. But no, actually I was very impressed, at least initially, because there's not too much. Not unlike Space 1999, where I had to do a little bit of reworking, including adding UFO to Space 1999's canon to sort of make it work.
Yeah.
UFO, I didn't really have to do that at all. Like it's actually quite succinct.
I'm amazed that is the case. I mean, there must be some creative steps you've had to take in some places, or is it literally everything you see is pretty much represented on screen?
I don't know. Like, admittedly, like there's other production issues. Like there's more than one Skydiver, yet you only really see one, except for the one that blows up.
Yeah.
Honestly, unless there's something really staring me in the face, which I can't remember.
Well, there's nothing that I've got in mind where I'm like, yeah, Chris, you know that one thing where you made the wigs orange rather than purple. He didn't, really, by the way.
It's probably more on the line with the aliens, because like towards the second half of the series, the aliens, they start mixing things up with them, and suddenly they can stop time and inhabit cats. And even
like
though
all good aliens,
yeah. So but like that's not a criticism, it's fun. I enjoy those latter episodes of UFO. It just makes my life harder.
It's part of the joy of this, and like you said, there was less for you to have to do creatively than there was on Moonbase, because actually it all worked. That seems weird to me, though, that an earlier show makes more kind of logistical sense than a later one. But do you think that's just a function of 1999 being bred out of a failed UFO 2?
Maybe not. Like one thing that really stuck with me, particularly with working on the models and things, is that UFO was the last production of a production company that had been working for 10 to 12 years at that point.
Yeah.
Like it was them at the best of their game.
Yeah.
Even if it was their first live action show, like they really knew what they were doing by that point. Whereas Space 1999 was the other way around. Like it was the first production from Group 3, and there was like a very talented team, but they obviously hadn't really had the same time to build up the same level of synergy, I think.
Okay. That's interesting view. Interesting. I'm glad though that UFO kind of just worked in its own world for you.
I think in many ways, it's harder with Space 1999 because there's like I'm trying to do the math here, but there's like a 24-year jump from 1975 to 1999, whereas in UFO, it's very much that, like, there's not a whole lot of future jumping in it. Like, obviously, there's a few throwaway lines that they colonized the moon to a degree, but it is very much 1970, but with fancier cars and like a fledgling space industry.
Yeah. And cool outfits.
And cool outfits, yes.
So, yeah, I mentioned the outfits specifically. So you got Christina back to do those illustrations, right?
Christina is a local artist from Belfast, and I got her to do the uniform illustrations of Space 1999. And she did a really lovely 1970s, almost like kind of fashion magazine illustration style for them. So It made a lot of sense to get her back to do the same for UFO. And like the costumes in UFO they're certainly one of the standard aspects of the series. It made it a little tricky for me to talk about because obviously there's a bit of disparity between what the guys are wearing and what the girls are wearing. And that's no shade on Sylvia. Sylvia was trying to design something that was iconic, and
they are very memorable costumes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people won't know the show, but they'll know the image of a purple-haired sort of moon girl.
Yes.
And that is impressive. But it actually, from a cold, calculating, technical standpoint, tried to explain that the guys wear polo shirts and slacks on S.H.A.D.O HQ, and the girls wear catsuits and have a makeup kit that has to be on them at all times.
Yes.
Which is also a radio.
Yes, obviously.
So I did reach out to a couple of, like, Christina and my friend Alana being a fashion designer herself, to just get some input, because I really wanted women with me on that, kind of to help guide me through how to talk about the moon-based costumes and things.
Absolutely. I'm very good at you to sort of open discussions up like that, because I think, there's a lot of nostalgic sort of reaction to those outfits, but you're not going to get that technical manual for operatives of S.H.A.D.O.
Well, I think there's an element of just trying to remember that, like, anybody who's in S.H.A.D.O has not only passed like physical tests, but apparently the world's greatest intellectual test. Like, these are very smart, intelligent people.
Yes.
So there's just an element to try and remember that when talking about these costumes.
Yes, very, very smart, very sensible. And do we come up with an answer for the purple wigs?
Yes. Do you want me to tell you it now, or do you want to buy the
No. If you want to know the answer for the purple wigs, the official answer, then you'll have to buy the technical operations manual when it's available later this month. Yes, we've got to keep some secrets, Chris. I mean, this is S.H.A.D.O after all. What has been your favorite set or vehicle to build?
Well, you're not supposed to have a favorite child, but Skydiver is my favorite child, and I don't care who knows it.
I knew it.
I just love that thing. Even before I'd seen UFO, I remember, like, the only real idea of what UFO was for my youth was this Steve Kite poster, and I remember on it in the corner was like a UFO, Ellis, and Skydiver, and my brain was like, Skydiver, like, I'm all about that. That is a very nice looking vehicle. There is a speculative interior for the UFO in this, which I'm reasonably proud of.
It's very cool.
Which comes with the caveat that there is no consistent size for the UFO, so every speculative interior could be completely different depending on it, because the UFO was whatever size that the actual model department or script department needed them to be at the time.
Yeah.
But yes, I did try to have a little bit of a play about what it might look like inside.
And it does look very cool. It feels to me like it really fits with the whole vibe of the show, which makes sense because you've been immersed in it for the best part of a year, really.
I've lived and breathed UFO.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can come back to the real world.
The inescapable. We can stay in 1980 in that lovely fashionable era. And so we know your favourite. I'm not going to say your least favourite. What was the most challenging thing to build and research?
A lot of the vehicles I actually found quite challenging. like one of which being the lunar transport. That they have the big red thing, and mainly, well, one, there's very little reference for it, but again, going back to the Century 21 model team being at their absolute pinnacle, there's all these like curves and sort of everything's covered in like extreme details and panel lines and things, and compared to Space 1999, where a lot of everything's made out of these very simple shapes that have been sort of put together, so while they take ages to model, they're not too difficult to get right. You've just got to kind of get stuck in. Whereas, like, if a curve's out of place on, I don't know, the S.H.A.D.O transporter, you'll know. And obviously, there's a little bit of leeway because there's not a whole lot of reference to work with. But at the same time, there is a bit of a, like, I can't really not get this right. I need to sort of obsess over this intensely.
Because you know there will be screen grabs done later on and comparisons made.
Whenever like the inevitable 8K release, like in 20 years, and I'll be like completely wrong.
You'll suddenly discover all these extra panel lines you could never see before. I mean, that craft in particular has got a kind of like a, not Stingray the craft, but Stingray the aquatic creature kind of feel to it, and it's so curvy and organic. I mean, can you feel the kind of evolution of the model effects team from Thunderbirds on kind of refining their design style and collaborating? Does it feel like the pinnacle of that group's design ability as well?
It really does. Like my theory with the S.H.A.D.O transporter actually is going from Stingray onwards, like the special effects team really got bored with doing planes very quickly. And you can kind of see all the way through Thunderbirds and Scarlet to UFO, they're like, right, how can we do a plane differently? And so like in Scarlet, you've got Flight 104 with the wings joining the front wingtips, or Fireflash has the cockpit at the back and stuff. And obviously UFO, because it's a lot more grounded, has a lot of regular planes like Seagull X-Ray and the S.H.A.D.O transporter, but you can kind of see them being like, let's do something nice, interesting, and complicated with the mobile transporter, or the Kingfisher, the little like three rotor VTOL thing that only appears in one episode from one angle, and I had to extrapolate the rest of the sides from. Thanks, guys.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So many challenges, but also some very cool designs to tackle. Since you mentioned the kind of one-off vehicles and stuff, we know Skydiver's your favorite. Okay, favorite child is named. Is there a particular favorite guest or single appearance, or appeared very few times, design that really kind of grabbed you?
Well, I was quite fond of the Kingfisher actually, and it was quite fun just to be able to be like, right, this is what the rest of the vehicle looks like, because luckily we have a piece of concept art from Mike Trim that very much reflects what it's supposed to look like. But another thing I was quite pleased about is the interceptors in the show were designed by Derek Meddings, but the first pass of them was done by Mike Trim. And we have this like sort of from the side concept art of the original Mike Trim interceptor. And like I did with the Chris Foss Eagle in Space 1999, I modeled the Mike Trim interceptor for this one. So we have a nice double-page spread on the prototype interceptor, which ended up getting refined down into what it is in the show. And like that was quite a nice thing. I enjoyed that because it was very much Mike describes it as the cousin to the Moonmobile. And I really kind of wanted to show the more NASA-like-esque, because I think Derek wanted to make something a bit more fun and a bit more interesting with like sort of more like traditional sci-fi fins and cool stuff on it. And again, not dissing the interceptor, it is actually a very iconic, interesting design, especially when painted green and with a pop-out missile. But getting to do the more realistic one was quite fun as well. So
it is a lovely spread, and it's nice to have a little bit of a reference to the kind of the genesis of the show, much like you did with the Space 1999 book. So there'll be more about this in coming weeks. We've got some live videos and stuff planned, and you can reveal some spreads and show off your fantastic work, Chris. Now, obviously, behind the scenes, we've had discussions about future books, assuming that you're not too exhausted from this one.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, you'll be fine in a couple of weeks. Just
back to the content mines.
Exactly, get back to work. But if you could choose any show to do next, and I really mean any show, beyond what we've discussed and beyond what might be going on behind the scenes, would it be the Investigator technical manual? Or
I was about to say the Investigator
Into Infinity technical manual. What would be the most fun for you to do, forgetting any commercial considerations?
I would quite like to do Win.
Really?
Yeah, and not like a big book, but just like a little the World Intelligence Network Agent's Manual, and then you could have the suit. You could have the suitcase, but you could also have the guest vehicles, because Joe 90's a lot better than people say it is. Jamie,
okay, no comment. Yeah, fine.
But my heart does belong to Stingray, and I have talked at length about how cool Stingray is and how fun it would be to sort of try and really politically plan out that world, and at least even have a map where this is the area that Titan owns, and this is where the solar stars are. This is where Wasp operates, and why Wasp, and how Wasp, and what navy, and who what, and submarine. Yes,
trying to make sense of the world of Stingray.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Quite the challenge. Well, let's see. We've got discussions going on in the background, and clearly, you've found a pretty magic formula for this. And I flicking through the current version and just seeing it as it goes into the sort of final round of prep for print, it is an astonishing piece of work, and I think you should be very proud of what you've achieved. He says in a non-patronizing way. Really, it is awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy.
It's I again shout out to the guys at Amazing 15, because I obviously get bored with my own work very quickly, but it's always quite nice to get the book in and be discover it again, because Amazing 15 on this one, it's not just a replication of their work on the Moonbase Alpha Manual. They've gone back and been right, what would this format look like 20 years beforehand?
Yes.
So it is a lovely looking book, and that's not just me saying that. I'm talking about other people's work as well.
Yes, no, 100%. They've done a fantastic job, and again, it's the collaboration that makes it really, really work.
And also, we've got Graham back as well.
And we've also got a piece by Graham Beathman, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you'll have to get the book to see that painting by Graham, featuring many, many vehicles from the world of S.H.A.D.O. Chris, we'll be back on various video things in the near future. If people want to find you on social media, where can they do that?
ChrisXL5 is my Instagram, and I do tend to share bits and pieces of what I work on there, if you want to get the drop on things. But that's probably the best place to get me. My Twitter handle is Invincible Chris with a 1 instead of the I of Chris, because you know what it's like trying to come up with a username for yourself.
Yes. So Invincible Crew once. Essentially.
ChrisXL5 is probably the better one, though.
Go and find him on Instagram. Chris, can't wait to see the physical version. You've done an amazing job.
And I can't wait to see the Torture the Battery Boy Technical Operations Manual.
That'll be even better, the best yet. Thanks, Chris. He's such a clever lad, isn't he?
Yeah, always nice to hear from Chris.
Clever Chris. More
right.
on the UFO S.H.A.D.O Technical Operations Manual later this month. And in fact, we're probably only a couple of weeks away from pre-order going live, I would think. Something like that. I couldn't possibly say.
No, sure.
But there'll be more previews and videos and all sorts coming over the next couple of weeks while we start to showcase you what's in it, because it is rather smart. Next week, I've got another Chris.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How many are there?
Well, there's millions. But this is Chris Bentley we're talking about, author of many books that you may know, including the most recent Space 1999, The Vault. So more very, very soon. What have you got to say for yourself, Richard James?
Well, I've been hanging around on Twitter, just shooting the breeze and seeing what people are saying about the Gerry Anderson podcast, which is always a mistake. But Peach has posted, took a break from catching up on the Gerry Anderson podcast and switched to Audible and the Thunderbirds audiobooks. Excellent productions. Really enjoyed them. I hope there's more. Other Ander books added to my wish list, and I know how I'm going to use my next credit. And rather intriguingly, they included a gif of Officer Orin poking his head out of the dumpster.
Ah, yes.
So maybe there's some Space Precinct books in her wish list. Dane posted, Gerry Anderson Podcast. He's instructing us to check out the Graham Norton Show video and included a link. This is the famous clip of Idris Elba being confronted with his stellar performance of Space Precinct. And Anthony Berryman posted, and done. After a couple of days at work, I finally got back to the Space 1999 puzzle this morning. It's a cracker. Thanks to Gerry Anderson TV for such a fab bit of merch.
Lovely.
Dave Probert tweeted, Thunderburst was excellent. Gerry Anderson covered everything that Irwin Allen covered, and in Super Marination to boot, which is a really nice thing to say because, of course, Irwin Allen was the producer of all those fantastic disaster movies from the 70s. But yes, Gerry Anderson got there first, and in miniature. Contemplative Politics says, without wanting to sound flippant, the only real memories I have of my parents together involves watching TV with them, specifically the Gerry Anderson shows, hence why even as a grown-ass man, I feel such a strong connection to them.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Isn't that great? Yeah, absolutely. Hiroki tweeted, when did you start liking Gerry Anderson shows? Mine started last month. I watched the old Captain Scarlet, which shows that it's never too late to stumble across a Gerry Anderson series. And finally, David Thomas says, I quite enjoyed a live-action, or rather, I would quite enjoy a live-action remake of Joe 90 in CGI today. They could really do that Gerry Anderson classic proud.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Could happen. Yeah. Nice.
Never say never.
Never say never. So keep your tweets coming in. Hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast. Tag me, Richard N. James. Him over there, I'm Jamie Anderson. And him over there, about to bring his fist down on the big red button with the randomiser, at Chris Dalek.
It might be a delicately placed pinky, you never know.
Could be.
And we'll find out very soon. So yes, Chris is pretty much ready for his randomiser, where using a very specialised piece of technology with a big red button, he presses it with some part of his arm and or foot, I suppose, could do.
Nose.
Or nose, and it randomly selects a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson series or film, and Chris says things about it, and he's going to do that right now. So shall we hand over to Chris and his big red button?
Yeah.
Off you go, Chris.
Whoa, where you been all these years? Come on in. Take a seat.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Dandridge. Yeah, sorry I haven't gotten round to seeing you sooner, but things are a bit hectic on the old randomiser front, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
But we're here now, and hoping you might be interested in taking a look at it for us today.
Interested? I'm fascinated. Where can I see it?
Oh, right here. Marina's just taking it out of its carry case. Yes, there we go.
Oh, it's sensational.
Oh, not bad, is it?
It's a gem. A perfect gem.
And we'd like to extend to you an invitation to press the button today.
Say, that's a great idea.
Ah, that's it. Nicely done.
Oh, splendid. So efficient.
It is indeed. Always assuming it picks a good episode, of course. Any preferences?
I regret to say I don't know.
Well then, hopefully you won't be too disappointed when I tell you that today's episode is... a little art.
No, I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
Yes, it is quite a likeable episode as I recall.
This is sensational.
Well, you like it, I like it, but let's see what the Podstrons think. Here's Supercar. So, we are back with Supercar for a little art, and we start appropriately enough in an art gallery with some very cool lounge jazzy music. I'm not sure if that's a Barry Gray one or a library track.
And all for the sale of a bunch of vulgar modern paintings that pass as art.
Value.
And instantly we have a couple of very likeable and very memorable characters. These are our villains, our guest villains for the week.
Steindorf. The only thing you...
Steindorf.
Scrawling on subway posters.
And...
Jody Mattern.
In poison.
Yay!
Well, it's a nice little racket you got here.
Yes, we instantly established that these two are ne'er-do-wells.
10. Yeah, but all good things come to an end, you know.
Graydon Gould doing another of his, see, voices, which I think work really well for supercar villains.
Avoided, see, by your friend and mine, the late Bud Hasler.
And now we have this very long conversation about art.
When it came to painting dollar bills.
Because, supercar, we gradually build up to the action stuff, a bit later in the series, very early on, we have to have stories about paintings and talking about paintings.
Plain.
You sold Mexican plain?
Oh no!
It surprised me too, finding someone fool enough to buy such worthless trash.
I wonder who could be fool enough to buy such worthless trash. But I also really like the look of these two villains.
Spot where Hasler buried the counterfeit plates.
Oh,
It's obvious that Steindorf is a former crook gone straight-ish.
Great Beaker of Black Rock.
Of course it was Beaker.
I do suppose.
He's got a lovely waistcoat as well as Steindorf.
We may have to play it another way.
See?
Beginning to look a bit shabby, isn't she, Professor?
Oh,
Gee, I don't see anything wrong, Professor.
not on Blu-ray. It looks lovely, Professor.
But as Mike says, the gloss is fading.
Well,
No.
Professor, can't keep giving her a facelift every other week.
Oh, I almost felt for a moment there that like the show was becoming meta. It was commenting on itself there. The gloss is fading. It's not as novel as it was.
Try a filter varnish.
How would that help, Professor?
Well,
And this is, again, I think we've discussed this before, where we don't have explosions and exciting stuff to happen. We have to have long conversations about sciencey things, and in this case, paint and gloss.
Remarkable here in the way of a painting.
Trust Doc. He's been working on our problem before we even knew we had one.
we'll be right there, Doctor.
I don't know if I was standing up on the upper level, Doctor.
Seriously.
This is great, though. Who's Beaker showing the painting to first? His fellow art critic, Midge.
Oh, come now. You're just saying that.
And again, it's another wonderful moment of David Graham talking to himself. And this is also a really nice painting. A bit Salvador Dali-ish. We have a cactus casting a shadow over the desert, a clock, and some calendar pages.
I am disappointed.
Dated March 5th, 1929. That's the only visible one I can see. And signed
Mitch.
Hassler.
Bless my soul. He's gone.
He just lit off after Jimmy. Have you been scaring him with your experiments, Doc?
No,
Just my painting.
This is your painting?
certainly.
Oh, did he just say the thing that I said? Oh dear.
Who's a fool?
Exactly, yes.
We were building our hopes too high, Professor.
Wait! Stop! Where are you?
Yes, this is Beaker's latest hobby of the week.
Without even looking.
Although, I suppose in production order, this is quite an early one, actually.
Where's the signature now?
I'd love to know who painted this. It's very detailed. Hassler, 29.
A Hasler. Uh-huh. So?
But have you no soul? Can you...
Oh, that was a statement. Have you no soul? This is an episode with lots of
Okay. And I think it stinks.
Graydon Gould's deadpan, that wonderful deadpan side of Mike. Because there isn't much action in this one, but there is a lot of
the beacon of culture.
Stuff he has to endure.
But meanwhile, we've got some serious painting to do.
Serious? I'll say it's serious.
Yeah, we're back in the groovy art gallery. It's a nice set as well.
And what do I find?
They've made very good use of a very small amount of space. They've roped off, like you would get in a gallery, 2 posts with a rope between them, so that they don't have to have a huge set.
Suppose you quit dreaming and think up how we can get that Hasler back.
Of course, I'm just waiting for...
I also like that Jody has got gaps in his teeth.
Steindorf speaks.
It's quite a fun... You don't really notice characters' teeth so much in these shows. They're either, they're just there.
Subscriber in the area.
Very well. Thank you.
Maybe he's a Hoymit or something.
A Hoymit? Say, he's a Hoymit.
Can feed to go out there and grab it off him.
You mean steal it?
Now, that's screwed right down, Jimmy. It has to be absolutely airtight.
I think it's okay, Professor.
Gee, I'm sure glad I'm learning about varnish instead of getting an education in a school.
Now, charging nicely. Are we ready to fire?
I beg your pardon, Mike.
Yeah, there's no room for levity here, Mike. We are painting supercar.
Firing one now.
And interestingly, close up on the hand there, but that wasn't a human hand. That was a puppet hand still holding the bottle.
Satisfactory. Most satisfactory.
Well, I think we are ready to have a go at supercar.
Yay!
No job, I'm afraid, because we have to be sure of covering every inch of the paintwork.
Will spare us no moment of this thrilling adventure.
Professor?
What? Was it? Where?
It's okay. It was Dr. Beaker's phone. Don't point that thing at me.
That probably means Mitch has answered it.
Now let me get this straight, Mr. Steindorf.
I'm speaking into a telephone, but the puppet is not sculpted to actually be able to fit the speaking part to my mouth. Thus, I have the phone at my ear, and the speaking end is somewhere over my heart.
Swallowing it?
I think so. You paid $90 for it.
Yeah, that's odd. They've sculpted these phones, but they don't reach from the ear to the mouth. The mouth end is quite away from the mouth.
Yeah, you're wasting your time, Mr. Steindorf. Yes, it is possible it is a fake, but it must be a very good fake, or it would not command the price you are asking.
Or else I am very stupid and willing to turn over lots of money for no good reason. Probably how Popkiss enticed him to come on board with Supercar, actually.
Almost finished this side.
The level in the job...
Never do find out where they got all the money to pay for all of this.
Jimmy?
Okay, Professor.
There's one prepared on the bench, inside the door.
That's it, Professor.
Over the lion pit, next to the acid bath.
Say we go see what...
Be careful.
Yes. Now the question we ask ourselves is, why? Why is Mr. Steindorf so anxious to regain possession of this landscape? I wonder, could it really be an old master? An early Van Gogh, perhaps?
Or a Delgado, or even an Ainley.
Because stenciled on the back of the canvas here quite clearly is the inscription...
This is a fake, in black felt tip.
Chicago, 1929.
Must have got around a bit, this Van Gogh.
Ooh.
In time and space.
Oh, so the master is involved. Mitch agrees.
It may seem human.
That was a valuable contribution there from our simian friend.
Steindorf must have some reason for wanting the picture.
Well, perhaps the canvas has been used before. Perhaps...
It really is a lovely painting. Very detailed.
A Grandma Moses.
I don't know. I know that Keith Wilson was doing paintings for Thunderbirds and later Space 1999. Was he on the show at this point?
Nevertheless, the professor has given me an idea. There may indeed be another painting beneath this one. And if so, with the aid of a little infrared investigation, we shall discover it.
Ooh, I love that Mitch is sat directly behind Beaker, just watching his every word, taking it all in.
Professor, you know what the doc's like when he gets an idea.
So much for your big idea. Where did it get us?
Well, how was I to know he turned down more than $100?
And I really like this David Graham guest voice character for Steindorf here. In fact, a few years ago, I voiced a couple of characters in the Nebula 75 Christmas episode, and one of them I based on this voice.
I've never seen the thing, remember?
Because I just love the sound of Steindorf.
Instead.
I'm not sure who David Graham is basing it on, but it's really lovely. Meanwhile, speaking of David Graham loveliness,
makeshift apparatus.
Beaker and of course Mitch are about to turn the infrared onto the painting.
Satisfactory. Developer, fixer. Are we ready then?
Yeah, jolly good. I couldn't conceive of doing this highly complicated experiment without you, Mitch. Oh, that's so sweet.
Do you mind if I switch on?
No.
Beaker's got the photo that he's taken in developing fluid, and Mitch has got another tray of developing fluid that he's just tapping his fingers in. He's just copying what Beaker is doing. It's so sweet.
Nothing special. Just wondered how you were getting on.
But I thought you weren't interested.
That was before you borrowed the spray gun.
Oh, my dear.
Aha.
I quite forgot. You shall have it back almost immediately. I merely wanted it to spray a solvent over the canvas.
What for?
Well, this is where we find out that the Supercar team have only got one spray can between them.
And reveal what is undoubtedly a masterpiece beneath.
This is all exciting stuff. And yeah, having spent all this money on this painting
over the whole area,
Beaker is now more interested in the mystery of why Steindorf wants the painting back so badly that he is going to spray solvent over the painting to see what lies underneath. Because he's rather like a butterfly in terms of his passions and his interest. 1 minute it'll be the painting is everything, and then the next, there's a mystery underneath it.
Quick, take it and let's get out of here.
And it's nighttime now.
Please, before someone wakes.
And Steindorf and Jody have broken into Black Rock, unbeknownst to anybody, and they've ripped the painting out, or cut it out.
In the morning you'll see, the man said. So what do we see?
Curious.
I love this, Mike really rubbing it in.
It'll be quite gone, the man said. And he was right, too. Mighty good solvent of yours, Doc. I thought just the top layer was supposed to disappear.
Oh. And it's interesting, seeing Jody and Steindorf sneak into Black Rock at night. This is, over the course of this episode, and it's quite rare for Supercar, the Supercar team actually don't meet the villains. I don't think, anyway.
I thought that perhaps he might have thrown a light on this bit.
Which is quite unusual, really, because, it's in terms of drama, Supercar is a fairly basic good guys and bad guys kind of show. And generally, there is always some kind of confrontation with those bad guys.
Well, of stealing it.
But not here, which is unusual. It's nice.
That landscape and those mountains. I'll swear I've seen him before.
So the Supercar team they've lost the painting because Jody and Steindorf have made off with that, but they've still got prints that Beaker had made.
Not rest a moment. I've not had a moment's relaxation since we caught the plane at 4 o'clock this morning.
You can rest when we get there. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't those the mountains?
Mountains?
Well, there's some rocks that the prop department have dropped in and draped some sand over.
The mountains, the ones we're looking for.
No, I hope so.
Oh, and they've draped the puppets with sweat. And an odd thing with the Jody puppet, though, is, and I think I may have mentioned this previously with Supercar, when he opens his lip to speak, there's light shining in through the back of his mouth, almost as if it's coming in through, like, the lines, the drawing line on the neck.
Where it's going on.
Hassler. Bad Hassler. Yes, an artist. A forger. Is that the only one you know of? Oh,
well.
Curious. Most curious. But then I suppose a forger is an artist in his own peculiar way.
A forger? Of course, Doc.
Beaker's now got the speaking end of the phone basically on his tie.
In 1929.
Oh. Popkiss history there.
My colleague appears to be familiar with the case.
I suspect he may well be an accomplice, and you should arrest him forthwith.
And they never found the plates he used.
Or the bodies.
Beaker, do you suppose that's what Steindorf is after?
Hey, Doc, Professor, I've got it.
What, Mike?
Those mountains. Looks like the Sleeper Range, some 20 miles across the Mexican border.
Huh.
We flew over them on that Amazon trip.
Oh,
yes.
We mentioned a previous episode there.
There's formation.
Hurrah!
The figure of an incumbent man.
I mean, it's vague enough that it could be anything, but the second episode of the show in production order was Amazonian Adventure.
Was it Hassler was caught in 1929? He must have buried the plates there.
But where exactly?
It was when they went off to the jungle to save Mitch. They had to find Tologai, I seem to remember.
This must be the place.
Ah, so they found the spot in the desert that Hassler's painting seems to indicate, because, of course,
Does Hassler describe it?
it may have been mentioned, and I've probably waffled over it, some buried counterfeit plates, I think. It's not treasure, it's counterfeit plates.
The situation, as I see it...
Aha!
Hush, Mitch.
I beg your pardon. Gentleman and Mitch.
I was also not counting Jimmy in either of those phrases.
Yes, Beaker is giving a briefing now. He's got a blackboard out with a pointing stick and everything.
1929 was, according to the professor, the date of Hassler's capture, not far from this spot.
Again, Mitch is listening so intently.
The legible date falling from the calendar here, we deduce that this picture holds the answer to the riddle.
So, what is the answer?
Well, I suggest the best plan is to visit the scene of the crime. We are sure to find some kind of pointer.
There was an odd piece of what looked like cloth poking up from the bottom of the screen there as Mike was talking. I'm not sure what that's about.
We dig beneath it.
Oh, no, that would be too easy. Hasler
No, you'll dig beneath it.
not enough to do that. So he used the S.H.A.D.O.
The S.H.A.D.O?
Yeah. Now look.
Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization.
Pointing arm.
Oh, no, the shadow of the cactus. It points like a finger.
25 after 1. The S.H.A.D.O. hand shows us where to dig.
Ingenious.
Yeah, Hasler was no fool. So get moving, huh?
Yeah, there it is again. I can see light coming through Jodie's mouth.
And you go take a look around for
I
the...
suppose it could be teeth.
What me? By myself?
Division of labor, pal. I'm saving my strength for the digging.
Let me see now. They'll be digging there presumably at the hour shown in the picture, namely 1325 hours.
Yeah, and it's gone 12 already.
Ooh.
Climb aboard, Doc.
We haven't even had lunch yet.
Good luck, Dr. Beaker.
Sod off, Jimmy.
Ready when you are, Mike. Hold it. Doc's just coming aboard. Steady there. Okay, Professor.
Oh, that's a very nice way of getting Beaker into supercar without showing it. Just have Mike narrate it. That little easy there. It's just that adds so much. That's very good. Again, that's the kind of things that the Woodhouses were doing in all their scripts. Just the attention to detail and reality. And I know the Andersons and everyone else was always sort of intent on how do we bring these puppets to life. They were more interested in doing that technically. What can we show them doing? Whereas the Woodhouses were like, they would do what they did just there, slip in a nice little bit of dialogue. Very nice. Oh God, Jimmy's looking up at the opening roof doors like God's about to come in.
Open, and she's all yours. Selecting vertical takeoff now.
That's it. Supercar's up. There's a bit of a wobbly takeoff there. I have to assume there's somebody holding it at each end. There's no way that puppet scale supercar is on wires.
Oh, Jodie. No, I've been right around in a circle and the cactus just isn't there.
What?
Perhaps it died. 30 years is a long time.
Jodie was just sleeping while Steindorf's doing all the work, and he's doing all the work in jacket, waistcoat, and bow tie.
North of the border.
Even though we're in the Mexican desert and they're sweating profusely.
And if we keep going according to the last flight plan, you should hit the spot with some accuracy.
Oh, Jimmy raised his hand there as if he was about to say something, and it cut away.
Oh, that was a nasty turn, Mike.
Thank goodness.
In fact, it gave me a nasty turn, too.
Sorry, Doc. We gotta make time if we're gonna beat Steindorf to the plates.
Oh, I hardly think you need worry unduly about Steindorf. It just occurs to me that he can't possibly find the plates.
What do you mean, Baker?
He's got the canvas, hasn't he?
The canvas, yes. But not necessarily the picture.
For Pete's sake, if you're so dumb you can't find it with your own eyes, then maybe the picture will tell us where the cactus is. Clear up the...
Oh, they buried the picture.
Jodie.
Or the picture has become buried in sand. And of course, remember, Beaker sprayed his solvent on it.
No. Oh, no,
So there's no painting left.
And so, I imagine Mr. Steindorf has found, somewhat to his chagrin, the effectiveness of my solvent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll soon know.
How much money did I spend on this painting that I sprayed with solvent and then let get stale, by the way? Whoa, that's a fairly dramatic dip there from Supercar.
First no cactus and now no picture.
It's not my fault.
Of course it's your fault. If you hadn't unloaded it on that doctor guy,
oh dear.
Have it and the plates.
Why?
They've all been foiled by Beaker.
Dig anyway.
Dig up a whole desert? If that's the way you want it, you stay.
Again, more great performance from Graydon Gould there, and that's not even Mike.
You. Why couldn't you have been a plain, ordinary, fake Rembrandt?
Oh, and that's it. Our two villains walk out of the story to that little bum 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 drum sting that you get in Supercar sometimes.
Hide us a sleeper range. Okay, Professor.
Hang on, Doc. Here we go.
Whoa, another dramatic dip.
wait a moment. There's a range over there. About 8 miles off.
That's it. Cutting to half boost.
If I were you, I would come in from a slight southwesterly direction. That will, if I may coin a phrase, put us in the picture.
Oh, I made a funny there. Not a very big funny, but a funny all the same. Well, it's more than Jimmy could do. And there's the painting.
The birds have flown, Doc.
True.
But of course Beaker brought, he brought his umbrella and he brought the print of the painting.
Could we find it, do you suppose?
Like how, for instance?
Well, having deduced during the course of our journey the meaning of the shadow at the precise...
this is quite involved, actually, for a kid's show plot.
Simulate a cactus.
What?
The cactus and the shadow and the mountains and the plates. Again, great work from the Woodhouses, who were always so confident that kids were intelligent enough to follow all this.
If the length of the mountain shadow is...
Especially with Beaker's intelligence. He's making some calculations in the sand.
Satisfactory. Most satisfactory. The cactus would have been about your height, Mike. So if you would kindly...
Oh, terrific. Lucky me.
With your arms just so.
The things I do for you, Doc.
And you wouldn't catch this, I don't think, in any other Anderson Supermarionation show. One of the lead characters is forced to pretend to be a cactus, but that's just the nature of Mike's relationship with Beaker. And of course they brought shovels and a hat for digging, and they found the plates. And they've taken them home.
Are these really counterfeit plates, Professor?
No, Jimmy, we just dug them up for the hell of it. What the hell do you think we're doing?
Interested in them? Just as the police will be interested in Mr. Steindorf.
Yeah, I don't suppose he'll be in the painting business for a while. Will you be sorry, Doc?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, having observed that photographs are somewhat more durable than paintings, I'm thinking of giving up art altogether.
Oh, hey.
Getting into photography. I'm not sure that's an episode we had.
Oh, really? What kind of painting?
Mike's hired a promising young artist to make Beaker a painting. And there he is. Even wearing a little artisty hat. It's quite good, actually. Well, that was Supercar, A Little Art. And I suppose your fondness for that one kind of depends on your fondness, really, for Supercar, and particularly early Supercar, where there isn't much going on in the action side of things, but there's just a lot of clever characterization and clever plotting by the Woodhouses. Two really nice guest characters, and in Jody and Steindorf. And as I say, it's quite unusual that there is no final sort of confrontation between them and the Supercar team. They just give up with the whole sorry mess and go home. Presumably they got arrested off screen, but yeah, some really nice character stuff there, particularly, as always, between Beaker and Mike. It really emphasizes the strength of their relationship, which is just one of the highlights of Supercar. So yeah, all in all, I would say one of the earliest highlights of Supercar.
Well,
Supercar.
Yes, all right, Mike Mercury.
What? Yes, of course. Oh, I should tweet that picture again, shouldn't I?
Yes, or that TikTok that you and I did many, many moons ago.
Yes, when TikTok wasn't even really a thing, was it?
No, and we just messed around, and since then they pulled the audio from it, so that now it's just you and I in silence making ourselves look like Mike Mercury and Moid. I mean,
oh, brilliant. Okay,
how ridiculous. Anywho, thank you, Chris. Chris will be back next week with another randomiser. Richard James, would you like to do a Fab Live at the end of this month?
At the end of this month?
Yeah, at the end of September.
That would be fun. Yeah, what, did you have anywhere in mind?
We could do it at the Moxie again, or you could come to mine.
Oh, right. Well, either of those would be great. Okay.
Because if we did it at mine, we could go for a curry afterwards. Actually, if we did it at the Moxie, we could go for a curry
afterwards. In Slough, absolutely we could, yeah.
Okay.
Well, either or. Yeah, that's good. Let's do that.
Okay, Fab Live plus curry on the 30th of September?
Yeah, brilliant.
Good, okay.
Is that in aid of anything in particular?
Well, it's Thunderbirds Day, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
obs.
Great.
You know.
Yeah, of course it is.
There we go. Good.
Nice. All right.
Excellent. Very, very good. That's the end of this one, isn't it? Or you got more to say?
No, I think I have no more to say.
Oh, I'm
no,
totally out of things to say, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
exactly. I've run out of words.
Good, me too. Well, thank you, Podsterons, for listening in. It's always a joy to be in your ears. Thank you for having us in them. We will return to those clammy auditory crevices next week, with your permission.
Right.
Oh, dear.
The CACs.
Yeah. Brilliant. Everything has to have a 3-letter acronym, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Anyway, enough TLAs and CACs. It's been FAB to speak to you. TTFN, FYI. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
CYSEIA. Can you say everything in acronyms?
NIDTTIP. No, I don't think that's possible.
Oh, AITTIAQS. Actually, I think it's quite simple.
Quite simple. Okay, yeah, no, I was kind of getting that. It's hurting my brain, though, and I really don't have
I know.
the energy for your nonsense.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, you should have said that on day one, really.
Oh, I
shouldn't you?
know, and now it's too late. We've come in too far, but yes. No, the lovely bit of acronymity there.
Acronymity?
Yeah.
Not acronymity. Acronymity.
I don't even know anymore. Shall we just go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just go.
Have a great afternoon. I'll say bye. Bye.
BBFN.
UFO.
Oh!
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.